Greetings, YouTube. I don't know how many of you are familiar with forts that were developed during the age of gunpowder or after the invent and mastery of gunpowder. If you've played Fallout 4, you've had an opportunity to look at one of them because the actual fort shown in the game is a real place. It's not to the same scale. Things aren't quite the same as is depicted in the game, but the fort's real and I've been there. It's very cool. Um, but that's a fort that developed after the, mastery of gunpowder as a use in cannon. Um, but another type of fort that was proliferated everywhere was the star fort. Now, the star fort is just what it sounds like, star-shaped. They could have five, six, seven. I've seen ones that had lots of different points. And they will frequently have uh, embankments that and dry moats, which are the same shape or quite slightly different shapes, essentially trying to make your enemy get bogged down to get as they try to get to you, so you can shoot them more frequently with your cannons. Um, and the Star Fort is very cool because it is designed that in that shape to take into account how cannons work, and it gives lots of lines of fire to get into all different directions. So they would be very complex to be used if you were to use a shape like this in the Middle Ages, because there's so many different areas to protect. You're going to want a fort that is going to be simpler in construction, fewer higher walls, fewer access points. Whereas in a star fort, you want as many lines of sight as you can get, so you can get as many rounds as possible, either solid shot or scatter shot. Um, so that's why they're shaped this way. In fact, I've even seen some of the, I believe it was in a book I read years ago, where they'd evolved it to the point where you had the main fort, then you had towers, and the towers were connected to the main fort through tunnels. But there were literally no walls between the towers and the main fort. Why? Because the cannons themselves were essentially doing the job of the wall. If you tried to move past that tower, you would be obliterated. And that's the goal. Just marvels of engineering. I mean, so fascinating. If you've never looked into them, go look at some pictures of star forts. They're beautiful, and the engineering behind them is incredible. But however, I just recently discovered, and I mean like a week ago, that like everything else in the universe, conspiracy theorists have gotten their grubby little hands on star forts. And these people are convinced that the star forts are the shape they are because they're some sort of cosmic energy gathering spot. So like they're pulling in cosmic energy to and concentrating it in that place because that's the reason they're shaped like that. Now I realize that conspiracy theorists can make a conspiracy out of anything. And there are conspiracies about things that happened yesterday. Okay? Um, but we have a lot of documentation on this. And it's freely available. In fact, a lot of it's going to be in public domain because it's so old. So you can just find it and read it. And of course, they're going to tell you that is just what they want you to know. That is what the powers that be, the cabal behind these energy gathering spots want you to think they were. They were simple military structures, yada, yada, yada. You've heard it all before. There's always some deep state BS going on when it comes to a conspiracy theorist. But star forts themselves are worth your time. Ignore the nutbags that are going to tell you that it's all about harnessing cosmic energy or it's tapping into lie lines or anything like that. Star forts are just cool, and they are a wonderful example of engineering taking full advantage of a technology until eventually the technology became useless. When cannons got to the point where you could fire cannons from a ship that literally could be fired from over the horizon and blow up your star fort, or when you get into the 20th century and now we had planes, star forts stopped becoming all that useful. But in that window between the mastery of cannons and pretty much the end of the 19th century, maybe even into the early 20th century, like the first 10 years, star forts were a marvel. So ignore the energy gathering folks. They don't have any idea what they're talking about when it comes to star forts. Or do they?